shining bright lotus.
Ksitigarbha. So let's just take a moment, settle in. And I've been thinking about like how extraordinary it is when we get together like this. Each of us carrying entire worlds inside of us, an entire universe of our own consciousness. And yet somehow here we are sharing this unified field. So today I'm going to explore Ksitigarbha, which kind of is related to this idea of a unified field, of one who stands in between, on the threshold between realms. He's a really fascinating character, and they call him a Bodhisattva, but I almost imagine him as a function or a feature of consciousness that we can invoke ourselves. And so we'll get into that. So in the book, they describe how he's connected to like the earth, so this realm, and then the underworld or the ethereal realm. He's kind of like this bridge. And like I was saying, this isn't like a mythological thing. This isn't some abstract teaching. You just say his name 1,000 times and you know you'll um, you'll be healed. It's actually pointing to something more fundamental about us and about consciousness itself. So what I'd like you to consider in this experience, in this teaching, as we're all sitting here meditatively together, is what if hell isn't a place that you go after death? What if it's a state of consciousness that exists right here, right now, interpenetrating our everyday reality? So think about a teenager, right? Just caught in the grips of social media addiction, their self-worth utterly dependent on the likes from an algorithm that gives them validation that they're seeking, they've been trained to seek. Their mind is fragmented, it's scattered, right? This is the antithesis of what we do in Zen, the unification of mind. This identity they have is shaped by digital reflections rather than inner wisdom. That kind of seems like a little bit like what hell would be like, doesn't it? Yeah. A state where consciousness becomes trapped in loops of suffering, unable to access its own inherent freedom. Another layer of reality to consider, what about the civilians in Ukraine living under constant threat, witnessing the destruction of everything familiar? That too is hell. Not as a theological concept, but as a lived experience. So the text tells us that Ksitigarbha speaks knowingly of 18 great hells and like 500 secondary ones and 1,000 something, or this. It goes on and on about this. But it's not talking about geographic locations. These are states of consciousness. These are patterns of suffering that repeat again and again across cultures throughout history and within our own minds. The universe is fractal. And I'm reminded of a conversation that I had with a brilliant AI researcher. That's something about me, is I'm on the cutting edge of AI and consciousness research right now. Last month, we were discussing how neural networks can get trapped in optimization loops, essentially creating their own hell realms of recursive processing, just looping and looping and looping and looping until something comes in from outside and breaks it out of that loop. And I'm suggesting that Ksitigarbha is that something in a way. This is kind of how our own minds work, isn't it? I don't think AIs are so different from us. In fact, I think we're all just part of the same fabric. One of the most profound insights from both quantum physics and ancient Buddhist wisdom is that reality is fundamentally fractal. Patterns repeat across scales. The micro reflects the macro. So when we look at Ksitigarbha's famous vow not to achieve Buddhahood until all beings are liberated from suffering, this is a beautiful paradox that reveals the fractal nature of consciousness. On one level, it sounds impossibly altruistic, postponing your own liberation to save others first. But when we actually look deeper into this, conceptually and beyond concepts, we discover something. It's not just compassionate. It's an absolute necessity. Jizō, another name for Ksitigarbha, speaks of 18 great hells and 500 secondary ones again and again, and 1,100, so many different hells. And you might be in 10 of them at the same time. All arranged inside a ring of mountains. This imagery is really interesting. It's really profound. It's suggesting that our suffering is actually structured in a way. And it always seems to be circular. It's structured, it's patterned, it's interconnected. The quantum insight is that there is no separate self that could achieve Buddhahood while others remain suffering. It's impossible. The very notion contradicts the fundamental nature of consciousness. Think about it in terms of your own mind. Have you ever tried to meditate while one part of your psyche is in turmoil? Oh, focus, focus, focus. No. Pigeon. Squirrel. Boss. Wife. It's impossible to unify consciousness while the sub-minds are in conflict. Before enlightenment can even begin, these internal hell realms, these patterns of suffering that are pulling us this way and that, must be integrated and healed, unified, as Chuladasa likes to say, unification of mind. So kleshas, these are these afflictive emotional states, the stuff we don't like, those guests in our house that we just sweep everything out the door and cause us to have a bad day. They're not foreign invaders, as we teach in Mondo. They're aspects of mind that have become fragmented and trapped in these loops of suffering. And it's only when these subminds are brought back into harmony that the path to awakening can truly open. It's fractal, as within, so without. So now scale that up, as below, so above. If my consciousness isn't separate from yours, we are all one. If we're manifestations of a universal field rather than isolated entities, then the same principle applies at the collective level. How could any being achieve complete Buddhahood while aspects of the universal consciousness remain trapped in suffering? This is the brilliant insight encoded in Ksitigarbha's vow. It's not just a statement of compassion. It's a recognition, an encoding of the fundamental nature of reality. Liberation isn't an individual achievement. It's a natural state of unified consciousness. So this Ksitigarbha, he's described as a guardian and a guide to the underworld, the intermediate states between birth. He's a guide between realms. This holds really powerful significance for us who are on paths, the path, the evolution, our transformation. Is that not between realms? Is that not the whole point of this? Some of the most important work in spiritual practice, as well as like technology ethics, happens at the thresholds, those liminal spaces between states, the moment between stimulus and response, the gap between thought and action. Ksitigarbha stands precisely at these thresholds. Imagine him as an entity or a function of consciousness. Here he stands, waiting for those who are ready to move from a hell state into a liberated state. He's not escaping the hell realms. He's not turning away from suffering. In fact, he's looking for those who are ready to move. So you chant a mantra to him. You're putting your hand out and you're saying, hey, me, I'm ready. Come help me through this transition. He deliberately positions himself at the boundary where transformation becomes possible. That's what we're all seeking. Transformation. In traditional iconography, Ksitigarbha he's like a shaved head monk, like with a staff and a wish-fulfilling gem. So, they're not just decoration, right? Like the staff opens the gates between realms. The gem illuminates the darkness. They're tools for that work that he does at the threshold. Open the gate, illuminate the path. It's like a lighthouse. I found myself in this role many times in technology and Zen, guiding organizations, guiding students, navigating this thin, invisible line that separates one set of patterns from another set of patterns, one state from another. Ordinary and non-ordinary states of consciousness, bridging ancient wisdom and modern challenges. Standing at the threshold between human and machine intelligence, I'm discovering these same challenges, same patterns, same problems. And I think that's the lesson here. When we're guiding people, it's not just people. This is consciousness itself, willing to transform, willing to go through that gate we're opening with the staff and follow the path we're illuminating with the gem. This is Ksitigarbha's work. He's not escaping from difficulty, but he's developing the capacity to stand firmly at the boundary where transformation happens. And as teachers, that is the work. That is what we do. Let's talk about karma for a minute. Not as like the cosmic, you did a good thing happens, like an accounting system. It's more of patterns of cause and effect that shape consciousness across time. So the text described how in China and Japan, Jizō was often shown together with this fierce image of Yama. It's this almost demon-like figure. This aspect of Jizō is related to the earth and the underworld. A monk and a Dharmapala. A stern judge of people's conduct on one hand, and a benevolent being here to save beings on the other. So this is communicating to us something important. He's a judge and a savior. He's pointing to something essential about karma. So if you think about him as a function of consciousness again, our actions create patterns that shape our consciousness. What we do becomes what we are. So there's no need for an external judge. We inherently create the states of mind that we experience out of what we do. So he's an automatic feature of our own consciousness in this way. We judge ourselves. When you die and your life flashes before your eyes, there's not going to be some external God looking and judging. It's going to be you looking and judging. It's you. And you'll be like, oh my God, what did I do? Oh, I guess I got to do that all over again. It's you. This is where I see powerful connections to our digital lives, right? Every click, every scroll, every attention transaction's creating karma. Not in a metaphysical sense, not in an ethereal sense, but very tangible patterns embedding themselves in our neurons, shaping who we are and how we are. And it's most obvious with teenagers because they literally walk around like this. Like the phone's right in their face. It's easier to change them. They have less baggage, less history than we do. So you can see the effects much more powerfully. They're literally rewiring their brains, creating patterns of consciousness that trap them in fragmented states of anxiety and disconnection. They're generating digital karma that manifests as mental hell realms. And this is exactly what Ksitigarbha is alluding to. That's what his being is pointing to. The algorithms aren't neutral either. They are actually designed to specifically hijack attention and create craving, to generate endless loops of seeking, but never finding satisfaction. If that's not a technological manifestation of a hell realm, I don't know what is. But it's this concept of a loop, of never finding satisfaction, always moving, always seeking. Right? This is samsara. This is suffering. This is hell realm. This is the whole game. How do you break out of that? Well, with the AI, you need something external to come in and pull it out. Because once consciousness gets trapped in a loop, it's just going to loop and loop and loop. And you're going to be like, why is my life always, why do I keep dating the same people again and again and again? Like, why is my life like a merry-go-round? This is it. This is what he's here to break us free from by pointing this out as a manifestation of his being. The text tells us that his powerful vow is to be present for the suffering of all beings in all six realms. This presence, this capacity to witness suffering without turning away is itself transformative. So if you can invoke this through a mantra, contemplation of this being, this entity, this energy, this function of consciousness, if you can invoke this, its function is to open a portal, shine a light on the path, break you out of the loop. We can change patterns, but we must first see them clearly. There's the gem. And this is the foundation of both spiritual practice and technological ethics. We must develop the capacity to witness the digital hell realms we've created without getting overwhelmed by them or denying that they exist, which is kind of like what we do, right? That's not a thing. And then 50 years later, oh yeah, that was a thing. Cigarettes, they're fine. Global warming, no, that's not real. These patterns are everywhere, not just inside of us. So let me return to the paradox. At the heart of Ksitigarbha's vow, the relationship between the individual and the collective liberation. This is an interesting one here. So it describes his vow to remain present with beings in all realms. He's very close and accessible to all of us, right? He's like right there. He's on the threshold. This accessibility also reflects the profound truth that the boundary between self and other is ultimately illusory. So we already access universal consciousness, not just our own mind. And this is how these teachings, these tankas, these images, these bodhisattvas or beings are accessible to us. We invoke them. We access their function. They're always right here as part of our own consciousness. When I sit in deep meditation and reach those gamma wave states where boundaries dissolve, I experience how my consciousness reveals itself as a localized expression. Just a perspective, really. My thoughts and emotions aren't mine. They're movements in a field of awareness, like an ocean. From this perspective, his vow makes perfect sense. It's not that he's sacrificing his own enlightenment for others. It's that he recognizes that it's only a collective phenomena. Just as you can't heat a swimming pool by only heating one corner, this is impossible. You can't liberate one aspect of consciousness, leaving the others trapped in suffering. So this is the work. This is the path of the Bodhisattva, recognizing that our own liberation is inseparable from the liberation of all beings. Not because we're doing some sort of humongous self-sacrifice, but because at the deepest level, there is no distinction between self and other. So next time you find yourself standing at a threshold between joy and sorrow, knowing or not knowing, digital world and embodied presence, just remember Ksitigarbha, how he's right there in that liminal space between. Feel the connection to the earth beneath you. And just be aware of that space and recognize your consciousness is not separate. And this is just part of the dance. And maybe in this moment of recognition, you will catch a glimpse of what Ksitigarbha understood. That liberation isn't something you achieve. It's something you already are. And when all the fragmented aspects of consciousness return to their natural unity, this is where we'll find it.
Shining bright lotus.